Welcome to the Rosenfeld Review. Lou Rosenfeld here, speaking to you from Brooklyn, New York, with Francois Burra. Francois, welcome to the show.
Hi, Louis. Nice to be here. Thank you.
It's great to have you. I know that you normally are in Montreal, Canada. Today you're on the road in beautiful Marin County, California. I'm really envious. But besides my jealousy for you, you have my respect as well. And I'm very interested in the work that you've been doing. And I know many of our listeners will be too. Folks, Francois is one of the co-authors of a book. It's not a Rosenfeld book, but I think it's an important book nonetheless, called Sustainable by Design, a Playbook for Product Managers. The second version just came out, and we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk a little bit about Francois's work as a digital decarbonization consultant and as the co-founder of Climate Product Leaders. So, Francois, let's jump right in. First of all, there's a lot of people we talk to, and I say we in the context of the Climate UX group that Rosenfeld hosts. We just actually had a session yesterday. A lot of the people we are talking with are basically going through their own case studies of how they started, at a point of just kind of feeling like they need to do something about the climate as designers, as researchers, as product people. And then they take some interesting paths that go this way and that way, but slowly and surely they are able to make an impact, and it's very heartening. And I know that that's what you get into in the book, but let's start with your journey. Is it one that began with absolutely no knowledge of climate and how design can have an impact?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's we all have our own personal journey to get to climate, and it's not a straightforward path for me. Like I almost before doing a business school thought about working for in a renewable energy and doing an engineering school, but I was not good enough in math, so I went to business. But the seed was always there, and basically I worked for 15 years in tech as a UX designer. I'm still a UX designer by heart, as a product lead and as a strategic planner. And most recently, or like 5 years ago, I was working for a startup in fintech that got acquired for 64 million. So I had was an amazing story to share
Yeah,
with
but
my
let's be
friends.
frank.
Yeah.
That's Canadian money, right? Doesn't really count.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as strong as the US, but still a pretty good success. Modest, but something great to share on social media and stuff. But the reality behind the scene is that I was depressed. I was kind of like an empty shell, and I need to take a year off basically to kind of reset, find again my intuition, my creativity, my desire to live a full life. And during that year off, I stumbled upon, or my seed planted a long time back, emerged again and grew to the point where I started to really feel that the climate needed to be part of my life, and bringing it to my work and in my industry was critical. And I followed a 3 month course with Terra.do, that is an online climate school. And with all of those, this pause of a year, this training, then I decided that my mission now would be to help my industry, the tech industry, become greener, because it emits twice more emissions than the aviation industry. So globally, so I thought it was a big problem that it would just continue to grow with AI, blockchain, crypto, and I felt that that's where my expertise, experience, network was, and I was like, okay, let me join that path and start to reduce the digital emissions from my tech my industry.
Wow, that's quite a journey, and that was just in the last 5 years.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. So actually, the last 4 years that like, yeah, 5 years that I took a year off, and 4 years since I started this journey and developing my services and developing my expertise and trying to have an impact on that topic. Yeah.
Well, I would count that 1 year of maybe, trying to feel your way around, dealing with the depression of the change. That's a dramatic change. And actually, I mean, I would count that, and I want to plumb that a little more deeply because, obviously we're in a field where a lot of people are um, coming to a point, maybe not because of an acquisition, but more likely because of a layoff where they're depressed or they're feeling strong emotions. They are feeling maybe at odds with what direction they should take next.
Mhm.
And however you get to this pivot point through an acquisition, a layoff, or something else, what like have you found that this type of work in climate does for like what's it done for your soul, not just for your like filling your
Mhm.
time each day? Has it been something that's given you more meaning? Is it something that you think someone who just went through a layoff, for example, should be considering because of their circumstances?
Absolutely. And I think most importantly, I think, from a mental health standpoint, it's important to have the right people around you. Like my wife was instrumental to help me, get better, but also I've seen professionals, therapists that helps me to understand the role I had to play in that depression and things that I can do to get better. So I would say like first take care of yourself, and second, try to understand what your gut tells you, where is your inner fire. Maybe it's climate, maybe it's something else, but I think it's important to have some introspection to really see like what you have to offer and what is this infinite energy that resides in you that you can leverage. And sometimes it takes days, weeks, months, years
Mm-hmm.
to identify it. So I think asking yourself the right question, and that belongs to also UX research terminology, knowing the problem to know the solution. It's important to really dive deeper into yourself to see what's there. And the climate, for me at least, working on climate is really helping me to feel like I'm doing what I can with the best of my ability, and trying to work on the problem that for me is very critical, very important, and trusting that others are also doing their part, and knowing that I cannot do more than what I'm doing, and that helps with eco anxiety, and that helps me just thinking that I've done what I could.
Well,
Yeah.
you're a true UX guy. You want to get at the problem and the sort of core question. And I love the way you
Hmm.
put it. You needed an outlet for your infinite energy. What a great phrase, infinite energy. We all have it somewhere deep down. We may have lost touch with it, but we have it.
Hmm.
And did you find that, like, when you asked yourself that question, the obvious answer was to work in climate, or were you considering other areas, maybe, starting another business or politics and becoming an activist there, or something else?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like during that year off, that I totally agree is part of my journey. I had like a lot of ideas, should I become a barber? Should I just change job and everything? But then at the end of the day, I was like, I like, where is my superpower? Like, if I have any superpower, or where am I good at? What am I good at?
Mm-hmm.
And what can I leverage? What are the assets around me, my network, and everything? And so I thought that for me, sticking to my job, was sticking to those assets and what makes me me was important, but just trying to recalibrate it towards climate action was probably the best move for me
Uh,
to have an impact.
Fantastic. Uh, Thank you for that, and thank you for opening up about that experience. I think that takes some courage, and I know we all appreciate that. So you moved into becoming a digital decarbonization consultant, and you co-founded Climate Product Leaders, which if I understand it, is collectively the driving force behind the book. Before we get to the book, let's talk about Climate Product Leaders. Give us some background. What are you trying to do, and what have you folks done?
So Climate Product Leader came up with the idea that I had like perhaps now 3 years ago, that I was trying to get more knowledgeable on the topic of climate action, and I was finding a lot of resources for designers, which as a designer I was very happy about. I was finding a lot of resources for engineers, but I was not an engineer, so there were some limitation. But as a product lead as well, product manager, product management specialist, there were some areas that were not covered well enough or catered around this type of job. And so I was playing with this idea, and for me, the best way to kind of play with this idea was just to share it every time I would meet someone. Hey, I'm thinking that there is a piece missing in in all the documentation and all the resources that exist. And at some point, I met Antoine Cabot, who works at Salesforce in Vancouver, who ended up being the co-founder of Climate Product Leader. And the two of us, we were like, "You're right. Like this needs to be created. Let's do it." So we didn't have like any vision except for let's build this resource and build up from there. And so that's where how we started to from day one pretty much started to work on this playbook. And but more generally now, like our goal as we see ourselves is to really create some awareness for the product community, product people that can include product managers, but can stretch to UX, and design people and some engineers,
Hmm.
and try to enable them by providing the best tools, framework, and best practices so that they can really incorporate climate consideration as part of their job right off the next day. We don't want something very based on the theory. Like we want something that is very practical, like kind of putting a Superman, costume, and right the next day be able to change, the way you work.
And is
So
the
that
way
was
of
really our
delivering
goal.
that primarily through the book? Are there other resources that you're compiling and providing?
Yeah, so it was and is still through the book, the playbook. Though we had a chance to be visible in many newsletter, podcasts, and conferences. So we had other vehicle to carry this message, but mostly our flagship is really our playbook. And now, as we release our second edition a few weeks ago, now we're thinking, okay, let's make a pause and reassess what is the next page or chapter of our story and how can we be even more be ambitious and maybe produce other stuff than the playbook, because at some point marginal improvements would not necessarily be a big drive a lot of more impact. So how can we just reassess the situation and think about what's next for us?
Well, I think this is a good time to take a break. And then what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to dive into the playbook, Sustainable by Design, a playbook for product managers. We're talking with Francois Burra, and we'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browser interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field, people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. Whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there. It's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting-edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Hope you like it. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. We're talking with Francois Burra of the Climate Product Leaders Group. And we are going to learn about the book that he helped create through Climate Product Leaders, Sustainable by Design, a Playbook for Product Managers. Version 2 just came out, and Francois, if I understand it, it is available for free, right?
Absolutely, it's on the web. The first version was a PDF 2 years ago, and now with time, we had a chance to put it on the web. So if you go to climateproductleaders.org, the playbook is there for free.
Okay, so great. What are we going to find in the playbook?
So in this playbook, you would find all the best practices for a product manager and beyond to take some nature positive action or climate action as part of their job. So it encapsulates and consolidate 38 best practices organized in different chapters from more strategic thinking and or processes and rituals, or from a design lens, or from an influence, how to leverage your influence. And all those 38 best practices are really there to help you have a great impact as part of your job. And we, when we released the first version, we always had the idea to embed also case studies because, human inspire human, and like sharing best practice is great, but if someone tells their story about how they tried to implement it and failed in some way, but also had some major wins in other ways, I think that would resonate even more. But we didn't do it in the V1 based on the fact that we were just two initially writing it. But now we have consolidated it a bit more. We're bigger. We, like a lot of people that we call ambassador, join our forces with Climate Product Leader, and now we're about 15 working on this V2 together. So it's very much of a collective effort.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've been able to not only improve the content of the playbook, but also add new artifacts, which are those case studies, which we're really excited to have.
Wait, so
Yeah.
38 best practices and now case studies as well?
Yes, exactly.
Wow. How
And a
many
new
case
chapter.
studies?
So we have the 8 case studies, but we're adding them as we go. So
Okay.
that's actually something that we're really glad to partner with you, your UX climate group, because we need to know more, hear about more stories that can inspire people to take action, right? So 8 case studies, 38 best practices, and a new chapter on AI, because we know that AI is a topic that we cannot avoid, but there's ways to do it that are aligned with some climate and respect of the environment, and some ways that are very detrimental to it. So it's not just like, do we do AI or Gen AI or not? It's more about how do we do it in a more sustainable way and with the more by being the most climate conscious. And so there's a chapter dedicated to that.
Thank you for offering a much more nuanced take on AI. I'm finding people have a very binary perspective. It's either good or it's bad, and it kind of surprises me. So thank you for that. Um, so okay. The second version just came out, and you're updating it
Hmm.
as you go along with new case studies, and that's wonderful. First version only came out a couple of years ago. Have you noticed any kind of big changes in what the best practices might be or the kinds of people doing the work? What's happened in 2 years? I mean, it doesn't sound like a long time. And then you think about it, in our world, 2 years is actually a long time.
Yeah. So there would be maybe two things. One is that the awareness is raising, not maybe fast enough based on the climate crisis that we have in hand, but still it's growing, so it's very encouraging. And I would say the second thing that came out and that was very um, like that took way more importance that it was the case in 2023 was AI. Initially, in the first version, we had just one best practice on AI. Now we have a whole chapter and a set of I think 5 or 6 best practices dedicated to how to do AI sustainably. And for some, like putting AI and sustainability in the same word sentence is highly incorrect or impossible. But it's important just to know, like, some folks don't have the choice. Their boss is telling them that they have to implement AI, or they don't have a job the next day. So how do we also equip them to try to do it in a way that mitigates, the impact and that reduce the energy consumption by choosing the right, is it Gen AI or is it AI? No,
Hmm.
the classic AI. Already that's the big difference between the two. Like it's actually by or an order of magnitude different in terms of impact. And then once you have to implement Gen AI, it's about how to choose the right model, how to choose the right task, and how to implement the right optimization techniques. So with all of that, it really, helps people to do better. It doesn't mean like they can just flip the table and not put AI everywhere, but at least they can do their job in a more sustainable way, which is, I think, valuable.
Well, I mean, like that kind of thinking about AI sounds like it would actually have a lot of value for people who are doing other or trying to bring other values to their design work. Like maybe if you were working in accessibility, there might be some interesting lessons there that transfer over. Let's talk for a moment though about the case studies. Do
Sure.
they sort of like? Did you look for a certain kind of case study? Is there a common narrative arc that you found in them?
Yeah, I think the intention with the case studies was to cover all chapters. So there were some practical examples and real life examples that would cover the entirety of the playbook, the 38 best practice. And through that, we've seen a lot of examples of team, trying to do the right thing, and also like having some major wins and some challenges and key takeaways. So I think that was very refreshing to see how they were, translated into the reality. And obviously, like, one of the key highlights that we gather from try to consolidate those case studies is that there's a lot of amazing work that people are doing, but it's sometimes a bit hard to find them. And sometimes there's also not everyone can share them, or like there's a fear of greenwashing. So there's a bit of some frictions that we need to remove. But with the putting those case studies together, we see them as super high value tools for enabling climate action. So I think it would just reinforce our thinking around we need more of them. And that's why I'm really happy that we partner with, UX Climate Group at Rosenfeld and other organization to gather more and more stories because we need them. So that's what I would say on that topic.
Well, amen, brother. That's great. We do need more cases, and we're finding that in our group as well. Climate UX discussions that we've been having. We're going to have to wrap up in a minute, unfortunately. But before we do, I just want to remind people that if anything sounded good, anything sounded useful, I'll remind you that it's all free. The book is available for use digitally. It is Sustainable by Design, a playbook for product managers, certainly appropriate for designers, maybe engineers as well, full of 38 best practices and 8 meaty case studies. I hope you'll check it out. You'll see the link in the show notes. Francois, before we wrap it up, what did you bring for our listeners?
So one thing that I would bring I have two things actually, if I have a bonus point. The first thing, on the topic of digital sustainability, I would encourage everyone to listen to the Green IO podcasts and attend Green IO conferences. I was there in New York last month, and it was an amazing way to meet other peers that care about the same topic. And it just beyond just the intellectual connection, it's just beautiful just to see people in person
Mm-hmm.
caring about, like, there's an energy in like meeting your peers in person that is amazing, and that fills your tank by quite some extent, or quite a lot. So I would say, like, listen to the podcast, go to the conferences. It's run by Gaël Duez, and it's called Green IO. You'll find it online very easily. And maybe the bonus point would be not a lesson or an advice, but just don't be afraid to be courageous and follow your gut, because sometimes it's against the wind, against the tide. It's sometimes a bit it could be difficult, but don't lose yourself in the process, and be courageous to follow your intuition and your gut. And sometimes it's needed, and to take action, sometimes it takes a bit of a spark. And if it can come from you, that's amazing. So I wish everyone, given the right privilege and the right setup, can try to be a embody the courageous qualities.
Well, and tap that infinite energy that you
Yeah.
mentioned. Francois, thank you so much for joining us on the Rosenfeld Review. Great to learn from you.
Thank you so much, Luis, for the invitation.
Thanks for listening to the Rosenfeld Review, brought to you by Rosenfeld Media. If you like our show, please subscribe and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast platform. I'd love it if you tell a friend to have a listen, and check out our website for over 100 podcasts with other interesting people. You'll find them all at rosenfeldreview.com.